Hello everybody and welcome back to FRS Season 5, where we'll be watching the Xbox Division 1 guys go around at the Squiffs Memorial Grand Prix here in Sakir. Bahrain has been featured in all 5 seasons of the FRS. Of course, this track is 5.4 kilometers long, 3.362 miles for those who use Freedom units, with 3 DRS zones, with each having their own detection point. This track has 15 very tricky turns that we'll see possibly a couple of spins being initiated, with 352 meters from pole to turn 1. It is the third longest run down to turn 1 here. A very, very heavy braking zone, especially when you're carrying a lot of speed with the DRS. And then we have turn 4, which comes right after our second DRS zone in the lap, where we probably won't see too much overtaking as it's not as heavy a braking zone as we see with turn 1. And of course we have the infamous downhill left-hander turn 10, where I expect a couple of drivers to be locking up a very tricky braking zone as you're turning and trying to keep it as straight as you can heading into it. We have, of course, the soft, medium, and hard tires, with probably not going to be seeing the wet or intermediate tires either. But anyways, yes, I expect it's probably going to be a one-stop. We might see some people running the two-stop strategy today. But without further ado, we have all of our drivers loaded in and now ready to go out onto the track. And as always, I am joined alongside with Kim Rodelaws. Kim, how are you doing today?
Well, after the Div 2 race, a bit dead inside, to be honest. It felt like an endurance race, but here I am, still alive, still functioning. So I'm ready to see the 2 different classes in Div 1.
Yeah, and of course, this is where we had the infamous Season 1 incident with Squiffs, as we're riding on board with Quimbulus, who I would have expected to have some kind of tribute helmet, but not a splash of pink that I can see on his helmet. So that's a bit of a disappointment. But yeah, it'll be very interesting as we come from such a different track, with Japan being a pretty pad anti-pad track, I guess. So I know that a lot of the drivers who use the controller, use the pad, are really looking forward to this, mainly looking at LC Fighter and Brinchill are 2 of the guys who I expect to see back up at the front again as Quimbulus crosses the line to start his flying lap now.
I'm just checking the helmets, and I think we've only got 2 people. And that's disgraceful. As Stanya is out.
Is already spun out. Wow. Yeah, but
I've seen better starts to the session.
Yeah, so we're riding up on board with MJ Povey now, who has his Squiffs tribute. And yeah, wow, Stanya very far off the track there. And that seems like a very weird space to drop it there from him. So yeah, extremely strange from Stanya there.
And he's one of the people with a Squiffs helmet.
Just so, I was about to try and ride on board with him so we could get a look. But yeah, I guess we have to wait for the race now.
He's cursed them. The other driver I can see who's got one is Povey. So we'll see if the Squiffs curse passes on to the second of the 2.
Yeah, as Povey sets the fastest middle sector now. Of course, we saw Pole in Div 2 being a 1:26.9, I believe. But I expect these guys are going to be significantly faster, especially with PC Div 1 champion Frazier doing a 1:25.2, I think is his best lap that he put in, as Povey crosses the line and absolutely demolishes the Div 2 pole time by a whole second. So yes, I expect the times to be very quick, with Quimbulus putting in a 1:27.5. So as they start to pour in now, LC Fighter putting in a 1:26.2, and we'll have to see where Nemesis is going to end up as he's coming up to the line now, opens up that DRS and crosses the line, puts in a 1:25.8 to be able to steal that pole position, that provisional pole position from Povey by 0.6. And I gotta say, this is absolutely amazing seeing these guys put in such rapid banker laps right now. That's quite insane. For these guys to already be into the 125s. As Cryptic, we have a little late joiner from Cryptic, who I could only assume was putting in his tribute helmet, as Brinchill now crosses the line with a 126.7 in the Williams. So Yeah, I
Quite
expect.
embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, it was quite embarrassing. So if we were in this session, our best laps at the moment would be 8th and 9th.
Yeah.
Everyone's banker laps have just we this doesn't look great on us.
It does. It really doesn't. I think the division placements might have been a bit bad this season. That's what happens when we lose one of our great coordinators to be able to sort drivers out. So, but yeah, I guess not much we can do about it now. And of course, we obviously expect the times to start to tumble towards the end. But yeah, it's it just speaks volumes as to how quick those front runners in Div 2 were in qualifying. Not that there's any bias coming through now, but.
Chelsea just improved a little bit on his fast lap. He was quite known for going for the double push. So I think both the Astons normally go for it, but Nemesis is obviously invalidated and is heading into the pits, so just one this time. But I think he'll be a bit disappointed on what the gap is compared to the two in front. In the practice sessions this week, they've been 3 of them separated by less than a tenth most of the time. So, yeah, we're looking to improve upon that and try and get himself at least on the front row.
Yeah, and it looks like actually Queasy Pluto might be doing a double push as well in the Alfa Romeo. But yeah, the gap up front, that's pretty big, seeing it 3/10 between them. And we know that LC, well, he did a lot of grinding for the All-Star race that happened here at the end of Season 4. So, yeah, it's a bit strange to see him like that. And like you said, that double push lap is a pretty significant thing as Queasy invalidates his lap running wide out of turn 4 there. But, yeah, it's strange to see LC a bit far back. But who knows, he might have made a mistake or something like that somewhere along the line. So we can only hope that it'll improve later on with these guys probably doing 3 flying runs, as it looks like Cryptic has muted himself in game.
So for LC as well, another thing to factor was obviously that when his tyres were obviously fresh, he would have had more fuel on board than the 2 cars in front, since he's had made it around for 2 pushes. So there's obviously time in the bank in the bank there, and probably it could acquaint to at least getting near the 25s.
Yeah, I'd easily expect him in the 25s. And another thing to potentially look out for as well is the toe, especially in that final sector, that long straight that doesn't have any DRS. I think I've seen before, I may be wrong, but I might have seen the Aston guys practicing giving each other toes in that, or they might have had their own private session, but that could be something that we see later as well. So we didn't see it in Div 2, we didn't see anybody giving each other toes playing the team game, but
I don't think we're good enough. I just don't think they're quite at the level, to be honest, of pulling off the master toe. Just get a lap on board is 0.1, and all you need to do is get a good solid finish. Finish the race.
Yeah, yep. Stanier, excuse me, is going to be starting from the back of the grid. But yeah, this is a track where the drivers are probably going to be putting it all out on the line, since this is one of the drivers' favorites, I'd have to say. So I'd imagine that these guys are going to be, really sending it and being a bit more aggressive than we're used to seeing. And I'd say even we saw Povey and LC last time round out in Japan. They were even aggressive at a track that I wouldn't expect it. So yeah, it's the championship battle is definitely heating up between these guys at the front, as we're slowly running out of time for anybody to make any kind of gaps or improvements in their standings.
Spen Morph has just spawned, so he's in the session and ready to go from his trip to Spoons. As Death Star crosses the line and goes P4 on div 1.5 pole position provisionally.
Yeah, mega lap from him with a 126.5, and again, we pointed out, I think, as we see Gali, thankfully not DNFing his car, but he dropped it out of the S's there as he was on a flying lap. So he's gonna have to.
He killed the advertising board.
Yeah, no more Aramco advertisement. If only they had other places around or billboards elsewhere. But yeah,
it's gonna be bad for the brand exposure. Is that something that can be reported by the stewards?
Actually, I believe it will be a rule coming up that you can't destroy brake boards. So if someone uses that as a brake marker, as Povey puts in the fastest Sector 1 by a 10th already.
He's coming.
Yeah, so Golly could be penalized eventually, but yeah, Povey there, it's insane the amount of pace that these guys have here in Div 1 and in Div 0. We shouldn't, honestly, Div 1.5 should be Div 1, and then these guys should just be in Div 0. Since they're smaller, there's only 3 of them. So hopefully, though, during the race, we'll see them bunch up a bit more, especially with the alternate strategy options that you have on the table, with tire wear being pretty high here at this track, as Povey is now 2 tenths up and sets a purple Sector 2 now. So it looks like he's on a good streak right now to be able to set the fastest lap and take provisional pole by a decent amount. I'd say by at least a 10th. We'll have to see, as there's not really many turns here at Sector 3. So he's going to come across the line now. And there he goes, takes provisional pole with a 125.6.
Bit of a sign of intent there. He obviously didn't have the best weeks last time out, but he's coming back, and he wants to grab the pole, and most likely wants to grab the win as well to go with it.
Yeah,
extend his lead in the championship.
Yeah, he still has the lead in the championship, like you said, and a win would be good here, especially with the momentum that Nemesis has picked up from his last couple of times out. As Nemesis is going to come up across the line, and he's only able to improve by 200ths there. Not enough, not nearly enough as much as he needed to be able to go and take down Povey. As it looks like Nemesis might be doing another push lap, as I don't see his ERS lights flashing on the back of his car. So it seems like these guys, it's kind of an interesting call. You're taking a lot of life out of these tires at a track that's known to be not the kindest to your tires. Yeah, what do you make of that, Kim?
Well, Nemesis is up by a 10th already, but I feel like it's something that would have probably been discussed in the Aston Martin chat. It feels like we're only seeing it from the Aston Martins, aren't we? So I feel like they've maybe had some tips from the other Aston Martin drivers and have decided both to go for the double pushes.
And we might finally be seeing a toe being given in place here with LC a little bit ahead. This is interesting. Nemesis is coming up to, I mean, he's going to be in the dirty air as he come up to that death curve, and I don't know if there's a little lift there. As we see a yellow sector there as he's backed out. Okay, yeah. So that was kind of an interesting call there as LC invalidated his lap. So, yeah, it looked like the toe might have been in play there, but yeah, I think they just timed it a bit too poorly if they're trying to give the toe down this back straight here heading into the final 2 turns. So as LC is going to bail out of his lap and dive into the pits now, leaving us with not too many drivers on the track, just Issei and Brinshill and Spin and Racer. As we're riding on board with Issei, it looks like he is not on a flying lap. Brinshill's heading into the pits behind Issei as well, so we'll go ahead and ride on board with Spin as he's going to be setting his first flying lap right now.
On the mediums.
Yeah, on the mediums.
Well, let's see what's out for him. Obviously, to start on those mediums, you have to be inside the top 10, but it's not too much of a downhearter if you're not. Last season, we did see a Gloverino start outside the top 10 on the hards and make his way up to the podium. So the strategy can be very mixed here, and you don't know what comes into play with safety cars. We saw one in the Div 2 race earlier, as Spen goes P12, and probably needs to get a move on to get onto the soft tyres.
Yeah, like you mentioned, in Div 2, we just had one safety car, and then we had the virtual safety car as well. So, yeah, strategy is going to be something, it's going to be huge here, because it's just, it seems like everything can work.
The race can be won on strategy.
Yeah,
obviously. You can not have the top pace, but if you nail the strategy, you're in a high chance of getting a solid result at least. But like I said, you never know when that safety car comes just to ruin your strategy and set the whole race.
I was riding on board with Golly, and he again, seems to be struggling through the S's there and is going to have to retire from this session. So that 126.7 it's probably not going to be enough to keep him in the top 10 there.
Still to be on Div 2 pole, notably. Yes. Where would we at? Oh, 12th.
Yeah, our times are tumbling now for our polls position. We'd be starting outside the top 10. But, I mean, Div 2 is just a different breed in itself. So as Queasy Pluto's pulling out of the way for a spin.
And Cryptic is off the track and is driving into the wall. I mean, I've seen interesting islands as there, but not quite that one. He's obviously aborted in the pits and always missing a front wing as well, so he's obviously had a moment before that. But yeah, I questioned how Spen got in the pits that quickly as well. He just it seems like he didn't finish that lap that quick.
Yeah,
that long ago, sorry, and he's suddenly in the pits.
Yeah,
I have my doubts.
I was riding on board with Queasy and I saw a little flash of a McLaren on the start-finish straight, and then Spin was in the pits. But yeah, riding on board with Queasy Pluto right now, Speedy Boy, as he sets purple sector 1 there, as he's 100th up on his best lap time so far. So could we possibly see a non-MJ Povey, a non-Barry pole?
I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but the middle sector is really where the lap is made. It's the longest section and more corners, and it's just more technical than the first sector and the last sector at least.
Yeah, he's gonna
nervous wait.
He's gonna approach the he sets a purple sector 2. Wow, with only 2 minutes left.
I doubt the purple here because it's a 4/10 improvement, which is it's challenging for 4th though.
Yeah,
and you never know. He might have made a mistake in his best lap in the final sector. He might just get into the 25s.
We're just gonna have to wait and hold our breath as he's just outside the 25s. But yeah, P4, like you called it there. So he might have enough time to be able, or he definitely has enough time to be able to recharge his battery, do a cool down lap, and then.
Oh, he just retired on the track. Well, that's interesting. Not quite. Yeah, didn't quite have enough time to that cool down and push. Yeah.
He heard
interesting one at least.
He heard I was talking about him, and he decided to prove me wrong live on the air. So thank you for that, Speedy Boy. As the rest of our drivers are starting to go out now, and we're riding on board with LC as he starts his flying lap. And I gotta say, the distance between these two Aston drivers definitely does not look like it's enough to see any kind of tow happen here, although we might see something between the two Williams drivers. They are close enough on track, even though it looks like we might see a tow between the Williams guys. But we're riding on board with the 3 guys as LC now puts in a purple sector 1 there, 900ths up on his fastest lap so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good start to the lap. He'll be the first one to put the marker down, at least on the bit of the big 3. And knowing Povey, I feel like Brenchel might have sacrificed his lap for him. They're quite slow. Brenchel's obviously not going for it, and they're next to each other on the track. So it'll be interesting to see if Povey gets a tow down the back straight.
Yeah, it looks like they did a better job timing it. If they are going to do that tow, it looks like they did a better job timing it than we saw the Aston guys do on their second flying laps, as LC runs very wide and takes
he lost
advantage.
Time in the middle sector as well, but so the lap's kind of falling apart from him here unless he's found another.
And Povey's invalidated his lap. Povey's invalidated his lap, so that's it for Povey there. So I guess.
And he goes P2, LC. He's found a god line.
Nemesis up a 10th.
He's up by 2 tenths.
Oh yeah, 2 tenths. Here.
It's gonna be close.
Wow. He has this is we might see, against everybody's wishes, we might see another all-Barry top 3. But man,
I mean, it's impossible for not to be.
Nemesis approaching the line, and where's he gonna put it? He takes P1. Takes P1 there with only Death Star left, and it doesn't look like he's on 2.
He's not on the push.
Yeah, he's very far down.
Spen coming up to the line now. Garley will be praying he can bump him out the top 10.
and he does it!
He goes P6.
Wow, what a big jump from Spen in the McLaren. So yeah, that's great news for Golly there, and we'll ride on over to Quimby, who's diving into the pits.
Cryptic as well, coming to the last corner. He's going to set the lap. We'll see where it puts him.
Not enough.
Well, never mind.
So yeah, there you have it, with Death Star not on a push stop, and I imagine he's probably going to be diving into the pits, as he's pointing his car that way now. So there you go, we have the All-Berry top three, Nemesis, Povey, and Elsie, with Issei jumping in behind there, just missing his flying lap as he came across the line, as he's able to nick P4 off of Queasy Pluto there.
It's so close in the midfield. It's so close in the midfield, isn't it? It just goes from 4th to 13th are separated by a second, or under a second, 6/10. So they've really, we're going to see some tight battles in this race. It's a good track for racing. We saw some battles in Div 2. Obviously, we saw some contact in Div 2, including yourself. We can talk about that.
Yeah, it's yeah.
It's a more favourable track compared to the ones we've seen recently. Obviously, Japan isn't notoriously known for... It's more of a good quality track than a good race track.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. And there is a lot of runoff area for these guys, but I think where you see these guys spin is in the high-speed corner, so you still carry that momentum, and it's kind of hard to slow it down. Like we saw Golly in the quali session DNFing through the S's. So, yeah, even if you do spin it and you do have that runoff, depending on how fast you're going, you could ruin your race there. So, I guess we're just going to have to keep our eyes and ears peeled and see what kind of happens in the race. And, yeah, again, strategy is going to be mega here. You lose about 20 seconds in the pit stop. So... in the soft, the difference, we saw it in the opening sequence. I think the difference between the soft and the mediums is about 8/10. So it's just right there between the two stop, being able to make up those 20 seconds with fresh softs, a light fuel load at the end, or being able to manage your tires and manage the softs, manage the mediums to be able to pull off a one stop here. What do you expect a lot of these Div 1 drivers to be doing here today?
Well, I expect the upper echelon of driver, we're talking the barriers here, to one-stop this. From the practice sessions, I saw people going to lap 10, 11 on the softs and then picking over to the mediums. So I expect quite a few people to go soft-medium here, but if you want to go more aggressive, and who cares about tyre wear, because the tyre wear can catch you out in this track. We've got with the high-speed corners. So if you want to play more aggressive, and then I probably expect some people towards the back maybe to play more risky and go from maybe a soft, medium, soft. But then we're saying this, a safety car around lap 5, 6, and then we'll see if anyone dares put on the hards to the end of the race.
Yeah, I don't even know if we ever saw the hards come out to play in the Div 2 race. Possibly someone who might have spun early on or was in the back of the field, but yeah, I definitely didn't see them, at least in my race, I didn't see them around any of the guys that I was battling. So
yeah, I think the safety car kind of threw everyone onto the mediums, didn't it? Because we had lots of differing strategy, but the safety car came out at the right time for people just to go mediums to the end of the race. It kind of ruined any chance of differing strategies, and I think there was only Grafty that had the softs on when the safety car ended.
Yes, yeah, yeah. He kind of forced himself into a corner there by opting for the two-stop strategy, but going soft, medium. So he had already made his first stop onto the softs, and he kind of boxed himself into a corner and kept the softs on during the safety car period, and had to end up taking a pit outside the safety car period and force himself onto the medium. So that's going to be something else that these guys are going to have to keep in mind. And like you said, that's the risk with choosing an alternate strategy, starting on the mediums or the hards outside the top 10. If a safety car comes out, it's not a free pit stop for you. You got to make it last longer. So yeah, it's strategy is going to be huge here. It's definitely going to be huge here. And I'm very much looking forward to it. And that's one of the great things about racing in the desert, is that you don't have to worry about the rain making this a bit monotone or anything like that. So I think we're going to be in for a nice little race. Actually, a nice little couple of races left through next, after our 2 break weeks, we'll have France. Then, oh boy, where do we go after that? Another great place.
It's either Austria or Brazil.
Yeah, Austria and then Brazil. I don't know what order.
Yeah, Brazil's got to be the last one.
Yeah.
So yeah, those two.
Yeah, so we have...
It's a good end to the calendar.
Absolutely.
It started off a bit mixed, but we've got a good end coming up. A very racy end. And France, obviously, a newcomer onto the calendar, so we don't really know what we're going to see with that one.
Yeah, as we pull up the strategies, or the tires here, excuse me, is...
Everyone outside the top 10 is on the mediums. I'm disappointed in Gloverino. I am disappointed. After his last season performance on the hards, the fact that he's gone on to the mediums is disgusting. It's disgusting. He should be disqualified.
Well, we've seen him extend the life out of the softs in... What race was it where he took the softs the same distance as some of the medium runners? So
I feel like it was Canada, and then obviously it really might not have been. But
that sounds.
It was
right.
recent. It was one of the last 2 weekends, I think. So it was either Canada or Japan, and then obviously we had controversial moments in both of those ones involving the leaders. So yeah, hopefully we don't want to see it. Like, we don't want to see the championship decided with a controversial moment or anything, because we know how people can get in the chat. So we don't want to see any big drama. We just want to see good racing and good clean racing, I should add, and the best people in the Xbox division flying it out.
Yeah.
And then the other 11 drivers.
Yep.
12. Sorry, I can't even do the maths.
Yeah. And in Division 2, we just got to get all the standard stuff out of the way, the stereotypical things that we talk about. In Division 2, we didn't see too many time penalties. We did see it come into play and cost Casimir his win at the race. But throughout the rest of the field...
Oh, no.
Throughout the rest of the field, we didn't see too many time penalties affecting anybody's races.
As Stanya has left the session, I'll try and get him back in.
So, yeah. So I don't think time penalties are going to be... I mean, it won't be a big of a factor like it was in Japan where everybody racked up time penalties, but I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, as with most things with these drivers here. But yeah, finally everybody finished warming up their tires, finishing their formation laps. Aston Martin starting on the outside lines. We saw in Division 2 that the start was pretty crucial. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this race. I know that we...
Let's go racing.
Yeah.
Go racing.
I'm very excited for it. Although timing tower was showing lap 2, and there's a yellow flag.
Aborted start. No, we're going for it.
Okay. 5 red lights, and they're out, with Povey getting a fairly decent start as LC goes to the inside to try and cover off, and Povey is ahead heading into the first corner as he's going to get a nice racing line there as they're going to go side by side. LC right behind MJ Povey, as well as LC now making a little bit of a mistake there, and he's dropping positions big time in the Aston Martin now to P5 as we see Nemesis and Povey still being able to stick side by side. There's Nemesis is going to be looking to go around the outside.
Bit of contact.
Oh, and he gets pushed a little bit wide. Already!
Time penalty for more of a warning. It's the 4th corner.
Yeah, that corner's been known to just give automatic 2 warnings, 3 warnings. There's Pluto.
Crazy
Pluto there.
Inside of him.
Oh my goodness, this is just an absolutely crazy start there for Nemesis. I'd imagine that he'd be able to get that 3-second time penalty appealed, so we're not going to look too much into it right now and give it too much value. But man, LC Fighter having just not a great start coming out of those final corners. He had a pretty good run through the first 2 corners, but it seems like he just dropped his rear there a little bit and got a little bit squirrely now. And it costed him a couple of positions there as these guys up front are starting to not necessarily pull away, but the top 5 are pulling away and pulling a gap to Petmeister down there in P6.
We've got Spinner, just recovering now, Racer. We also should mention that Issa was, as Cryptics also got damaged, Issa was started 4th, didn't he? And is back in 13th.
Yes, and Racer, it seems like he's struggling to get his car pointed the right way around there. Riding on board with Issa, he's not going into the pits as he's right behind Stanier there, so it didn't pick up any damage. If he did spin or something like that, he didn't pick up any damage as they're going to go side by side into T1 there. Issa will have the inside line. If Stanier's going to give him the space, and it looks like he just is this round as they're both round. The McLaren and the Alpha Tauri in P11 and P12 both round there as they were very close heading through turn 3 there. Man, they both came very close and touched, and that was, yeah, I was just riding on board with Issei, so I didn't see exactly what happened for the other drivers there, but yeah, that was something. That was something there as we have excitement continuing throughout the rest of the field as we move forward to the other McLaren, Spinwolf in P4, as he had that weird call to try and qualify on the mediums. Now all the way up to P4 ahead of LC Fighter there, as Racer has now left the session. Looks like we might be having some lobby host issues, but wow, yeah, some great racing so far. Squeezy Pluto has dropped it there at the
he's dropped it.
Death curve.
Did he hit the wall? The front wing looks alright as he just casually backs it on the track. In the middle of the track.
So it drops him down there into P10 as Stanier now loses connection there too. Meanwhile, Nemesis is still within DRS range of
LC
Povey.
is got a run here. They went, Spenwolf and him went side by side into turn 2 the last lap. It was close to contact. It was quite aggressive, but Spen held onto the position all the way up straight. But now he's going to have the benefit of DRS, which has just been enabled.
Looks like LC.
But it doesn't quite look close enough to get this done at the end of the straight, so he's going to have to wait and probably at least until the end of the lap. You get DRS on the third straight, but it's unless you have like a good run out the corner, it's probably not the best place for overtaking.
Yeah, is Nemesis and Povey are coming up to that middle DRS zone there. Looks like Nemesis wasn't close enough to make any kind of move in that second DRS zone, or I guess first DRS zone, depending on how you classify it. But he has DRS now, but he's 5/10 back, and I imagine that's a bit too far back to be able to make any kind of move into it. It looks like he just thinks better of it and just keeps out of it for the time being, as we'll go ahead and looks like LC as well. Looks like these Aston guys are just playing it safe, and who knows, we might see a little bit of tire wear starting to come into play. I mean, I'd be a bit shocked seeing it come in this early, although the track is known to eat up tires quite quickly, but yeah.
I think for LC, it's the key thing is getting past Spen. He's quicker than him, we know he's quicker than him, but he's getting trapped behind him, and every second he's behind him is him losing time to the two leaders, who obviously he wants to be with, since obviously the pace between them is quite close.
As we see Nemesis getting some DRS pass going on MJ there, and it looks like he's able to have the better line, and he'll hold on to it here, but Povey will be getting DRS and be extremely close to Nemesis as they're going side by side, fighting hard there. It looks like Spin is spun around, so he missed while these guys at the front are battling it out. It looks like we might have missed a little bit of contact possibly between LC and Spin there, as these guys are continuing to go side by side, Nemesis and Povey.
He's just going to send it. He's just going to send it, Povey, into the corner. Doesn't quite get it done, but yeah, that was a good battle. That was a good taste of things to come. Hopefully they can keep it as clean as possible as they come close to contact.
And Povey now is only 2/10 back. Last time around we saw Nemesis 5/10 back, so he was definitely out of it. Not going to be able to make a move, but Povey has a nice run, and it looks like he just doesn't want to be trying to make the move through these high-speed corners that are coming up here at the end of Sector 2. So, curiously, I mean, we saw LC make the move, as it looks like Cryptic has retired from the session. We saw LC in Canada, was it? Or Japan, where he took the massive undercut to Povey and played the team game there. Yeah. So, I mean, he's 3 seconds back now, kind of in free air. Should he go for the undercut on MJ Povey here to try and get ahead and play that team game, or is it he should just be racing his own race now?
Yeah, if he pits, for example, in the next couple of laps, he's committing himself to a 2-stop as the leaders go side by side again. Obviously, this helps LC because he's obviously gaining. Can't even get the words out with them battling. He's gained like half a second, in that little battle they just had.
Yeah, and the leaders there had to it kind of looked like Nemesis got a little bit spooked by seeing Cryptic's AI there. Cryptic did the right thing to retire in the pits, but yeah, the AI came out right in front of them, and it looked like that kind of forced Nemesis to just kind of tuck behind Povey and wait later on. So Yeah, Nelsie is still gaining there. It looks like he's made 2/10 up now as they're approaching the middle of the middle sector. And again, Nemesis, we're seeing what happened in lap 3 now. 5/10 back. Not going to be nearly close enough to make any kind of move on Povey for the time being. Just going to be able to gain a little bit of position to Povey ahead there. So, yeah, it looks like we're going to have to... we'll see a couple of lead changes throughout this race as these guys
this one isn't over.
Yes,
this one isn't over.
These guys are so matched on race pace. So, wow. Yeah, we've got 24 exciting more laps to come for this hotly contested championship battle here in Xbox Division 1.
I mean, obviously Nemesis is probably just a little bit annoyed about getting a 3-second time penalty before the time they made it into turn 3. And he's got a run, and I imagine he's probably going to send it. Or keep it behind to go for the DRS into the next corner.
Yeah, as they do a little swap
by side. And none of them have DRS.
Is Racer retired from the session? Is this going to trigger some
That's
kind of
on
safety
track.
car? Safety car! There's a safety car! Who was ahead there? It looks like they swapped positions right when it was deployed.
I don't think they know. They both kind of like stopped the whole there. Like, do you want to go? I think this is the safety car that's going to bring people into the pits. I can't imagine anyone can't imagine anyone staying out.
Yeah.
It's probably we're either going to look to people going on the hards, or we could see potential of some 2-stops here because it's a bit early. I'm not sure if it is a bit early for the mediums. Obviously, my tyre wear is disgraceful, so probably not the best person to ask. But there's no way in hell I'd be able to get from the mediums here. It looked like Nemesis was about to go racing down the straight in front of me.
Yeah. So here's a question that I would ask you. Both these guys have their teammates extremely close to them. So if the leaders do go ahead and pit, if you're Brinchill and LC, do you still follow them in as well in double stack, or is it just too risky to lose too many positions and possibly wait to come around the next time and pit then?
I think it's an interesting one, but if you stay out, you're definitely losing more positions compared to a double stack. I think if LC wants to pit, he just needs to maybe back it off slightly. As they're both
we see both of them, and we see them go side by side into the pits again. A little remake of Canada.
Everyone is pitting. Apart, is Garley pitting on the mediums? Yep. We're going to see a very busy pit lane coming up. Let's see what people do.
As we see LC being able to get pitted, is he going to lose any positions? It looks like he did. It looks like he lost a couple of positions there. He might be able to make it up over Brinchill because the Williams team having a double stack. So it looks like LC lost a position to Pep ahead of him. Yeah.
On tyre wise, we have seen some variations. Garley and Gloverino have pitted onto the hards. There we go, Gloverino. I doubted you, but he's on the hards. He's obviously they were kind of a bit trapped anyway because they started on the mediums, so they've obviously gone for the strategy of we don't want to stop again, and they're going to the hards at the end. But we can't rule out, of course, another safety car. We've seen one in 7 laps, and that was before the Div 2 one came out. So,
looking at tires, there's one interesting call down there in last place. Death Star fitting the soft tires. As I believe he came off the hards, as I think he had to come in early for a wing change possibly. So
yeah, he damaged his front wing. But it's a good move. You're in last place. Why not get a bit racy, and then you kind of commit. You're committing to the 2-stop, obviously. So get a bit racy now. Try and make up decisions. You never know. There might be another safety car, and everyone pits to mediums again because they might not make it, and you gain the position. But it's a good show of intent from. If you're in last place, what have you got to lose really anyway?
Yeah, this is so. Yeah, this is some exciting stuff. Div 1 just continues to deliver when it comes to the content. So, yeah, this is insane for the medium. This is going to be a long distance for the mediums to go. Granted, they aren't going under any kind of racing laps right now behind the safety car, but 22 laps, probably going to be with the safety car one more lap. So we'll have 21 laps. To try and get these mediums to go, and I know I couldn't make them go that distance.
No, not a chance I could get even near. I'd be maybe like 12 laps, but I barely I barely got them from lap. Well, when did the safety car come out? About lap 14, 15. We barely got them home from there. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how people play. If we see if some people play it, if they just go for tire saving from the start, just to go for the one stop here, or people go more aggressive on the mediums, coming into the two stop.
Yeah,
as Chuck has joined to have a watch. He's clearly not impressed with our commentating, so thought he'd watch it for himself.
Yeah, and also another thing too. I mean, of course, there's no such thing in our league as a number 1 and number 2 driver, but these guys, the championship battle is essentially between Povey and Nemesis for the time being. I don't know I think Elsie is still kind of in there, but we've seen him before play the team game. So these guys, Elsie and Brinchill, are there, 3 positions behind the leaders. So we might see some team games come in if Povey or Nemesis are working their tires too hard. Then the other opponent might say, "Hey, LC, go ahead and box and undercut Povey because I think he's going to be coming in for a 2-stop. I don't think his mediums can make it." So we might see some team games come into play there as well. And we might even see another late safety car or virtual safety car come out. There's just really is no telling here at the Squiffs Grand Prix, I guess. So as I haven't taken a look at Stanier's helmet yet. The only other tribute. Oh, that is a nice Squiffs tribute there. Yeah, I'll give that one. I'll give the Squiffs helmet tribute to Stanier over Povey, although I think those are the only 2 drivers that were in this competition.
Yeah. And the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, so about to go racing again. LC obviously will want to get in front of Petmeister as soon as he can to gain from the safety car, because obviously he was gaining, but he was still two seconds plus away. So he'll hopefully try and get as fast as possible, hopefully by the time we get into turn 1, and make the 2-way fight a 3-way fight for the lead.
Yeah, Povey's still waiting. I'd imagine that he's going to wait to go around this corner before he floors it. Doesn't want to give Nemesis too big of a toe. Povey caught Nemesis napping as Nemesis gets a terrible start, a terrible restart. It looked like he actually accidentally dropped it a little bit and got squirrely on the exit there, and he almost lost the position there to Petmeister. But Povey already 1.2 seconds ahead of Nemesis.
We've got some contact into turn 1. It looks like Gali. Yeah, Gali's out of pace, off the pace. I think there was definitely some side contact between him and I think it was the Williams of Brenchel.
As LC finally gets past Petmeister, so yeah, he got that move done very early on. But yeah, who knows if Gali Death Star's back into the pits again as well. But who knows if Gali just didn't have his hards up to temperature. I know that the mediums themselves at this track are a bit difficult to try and keep up to temp behind safety cars. So who knows exactly what happened. I wasn't riding on board with them, and unfortunately I missed out there. But yeah, this safety car restart has absolutely been something. It's been to the benefit of MJ Povey, as he's a 1.5 seconds now, which means that Nemesis is going to be out of DRS range as his teammate is starting to gain on him just slightly. Man, that is, yeah.
Couldn't have gone any better for him.
Yeah.
It literally couldn't have even got any better. He caught everyone off guard. I'm surprised Petmeister, but he kind of didn't feel like he really wanted to go for it. They were quite side by side at one point, him and Nemesis. But he kind of like backed off and didn't really want to try going for it. So now it's up to Nemesis to bridge that gap back, but he's not exactly gaining, just maybe small thousandths, hundredths along the way. But yeah, he's also got. We don't want to talk about penalties, but at the moment he has got a 3-second one. We know it's a bit dodgy, and he hasn't actually had any warnings since. So yeah, but he has to get at least into DRS range before even beginning the conversation of overtakes, and he has just set a purple sector, so he's starting to put the pressure back on.
Yeah, it looks like he chipped away 2 tenths now at MJ Povey, but I'd imagine that Povey's probably just playing a little bit safe, trying to avoid giving any kind of DRS to Nemesis, because we saw that was kind of the only thing that was keeping them battling and swapping positions was that DRS. So as we saw Issei get a little bit squirrely there and drop a position to Spinwolf as they were coming out of, is that turn 10? The downhill left-hander there. So he lost the position, and now he's in a McLaren sandwich for these final points-paying positions there, as Ben is so close to Issei ahead there. So yeah, we have some very close battles going throughout the entirety of this field. And it's great because we don't not much is going on at the front, so we can just cut to some other guys who have been missing out on some airtime.
We've seen over the last few weeks as Nemesis puts in the fast lap of the race, we've kind of been the battle for the lead's been that close that we haven't really got the chance to see the midfield battle. But the safety car is really, it's brought back the people who have made mistakes in this race. Spun, for example, we saw Spen have a moment. Issa obviously was back to last by the start, by like turn 2 first lap. So yeah, get to see some midfield racing as Spen now looks for the overtake on the hard driving Gloverino.
And Issei he looked like he wanted to get in there as well, but just unfortunately ran out of straight there. And that corner was just coming up too close now, so you just got to wait for that infield DRS there. As contact there.
Was concertinaed into the corner. They all just stacked it up.
And that's going to help out Issei big time. And Gloverino, the guy who did a fantastic drive last season on the hards, just seem to be there with the hards this time around. So we're going to have to
it's not his race at the moment, is it? Because he's obviously a massive disadvantage for the people on the medium. So just instead of trying to race them, it's just kind of follow them and just maintain the gaps as much as you can to start to, when the mediums start wearing out, you're obviously more consistent on the hards, so you can start plugging away at the gaps and gaining an advantage from it.
Yeah, and it looks like he's kind of finally slotted into a better spot now, as he's able to have DRS. He was under that pressure from Spin and Issei both getting DRS on him and having the tire advantage, but now he's able to get into DRS and be able to fend off Stanier for hopefully a little bit longer, but I might have spoke too soon, as Stanier has a pretty good run, but he's still a bit back, but he's able to...
He'll send it.
He was able to hang on the brakes and lean on those medium tires. Yeah, he definitely sent it there. And so he got that promotion up into P9 now on
the two hard
Gloverino.
The two hard drivers are together again.
Yeah, there they are.
Gloverino and Gali. So nice recovery from Gali after the moment into turn 1 on the safety car restart, and has found his fellow hard tyre runner, and they can have a little they should have a little battle here to see who can be the lead hard driver. When we kind of think people are going to pit, and just to know that Spen's tyres are 2 laps older than everyone else's. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what he does when he pits, and see if it's much earlier than anyone else, if people do to pit like we think. And another thing of note is that by the end of when the next DRS zone happens, Nemesis is in DRS range of Povey.
Unfortunately for Nemesis, though, he's had his brake lights flashing for most of Sector 3, so yeah, he's been trying to go for it to be able to catch up, but he does have that DRS, and so we're going to see that gap fall, but he's just kind of left hanging with the lack of battery, and Povey doesn't have that much of an advantage. It looks like he's hanging around 25% battery himself as well, so yeah, but Nemesis did finally catch up and got into that DRS range, which is going to be, might be pretty crucial towards come the end of this race there, as we see Pepmeister and MJ Povey's teammate Brinchel and the other Williams there trading blows for P4 and P5 right now.
I wonder if Povey's
in the wall. Oh, thankfully avoiding picking up any kind of damage, but yeah.
I think he's got away with that one, but obviously he lost the positions. We'll see if he's still up to pace. It looks like he's attacking the corner quite well. Yeah, it looks fine. But yeah, I was saying before, it's really interrupted me. I wonder if Povey's approving of his teammates' performance this race. Obviously, we know it's a lot of pressure being Povey's teammate, but best of the rest so far for Brenchel. Track that he does like, and he won last year, didn't he? I think in Bahrain, first win. I feel confident in saying that.
I believe that's right. I mean, it was
I think it was. I think
Yeah.
because obviously at the start of last season, Povey didn't have the best of starts, so a lot of people capitalised and got their first wins in Div 1, such as Issa in Austria, which we'll be heading to in probably it's about 4 weeks' time now, isn't it? With the break weeks coming up,
Yes. Yep.
we'll get there eventually. Since the F1 rudely decided to start back to back, as we have a yellow in sector 3 for Death Star, who has spun around in the notorious spin corner, and Issa has pitted. So yeah, might have had little damage. He's probably pit onto the mediums and should be able to get to the end of the race here. But yeah, he's changing his front wing, so obviously picked up some form of front wing damage from the little moment he had.
Yeah, the medium should easily be able to go to the end there, as Death Star's teammate, Petmeister, is continuing to duke it out with Brinshaw there, but Brinshaw's doing a pretty good job holding his own here for a P4 finish, which would definitely help out the Williams in the Constructors' Championship battle this season. It's been pretty tight between, I think those are actually the front two teams as well, Aston and Williams in the league-wide Constructors' Championship, so this will be a great result for the Williams boys this time around. As we turn back to the battle for P1, Nemesis continuing just to hang in the DRS range. I'd imagine that he's just trying to save up some battery at this point to be able to come up with a last-minute charge on Povey as we've crossed the halfway mark now in this race, and everybody's just kind of settling into their own for the time being, as Brinshill, as the P4 and P5 guys are kind of in their own little race for the time being, and LC Fighters just kind of in no man's land, just going for a nice little Saturday cruise, I guess, as Petmeister is able to get the move done, but Brinshill, it looks like, is not going to be close enough to be able to make anything happen right now, as he's going to get DRS and might possibly get a good run as he just even breaks the toe himself, as he was probably a bit ambitious, thinking that he would be able to make a move on Petmeister in a T4. But yeah, not close enough this time around. Possibly on the infield DRS zone. But yeah, these guys are just continuing to trade places back and forth, giving us a little bit of excitement as we're starting to settle down a little bit, as Nemesis finally gets that, breaks that 7/10 barrier that he seemed to be hovering around, as he's now within half a second of Povey ahead of him.
And he's got at least, it's hanging around like 10 to 15% more battery than Povey, so he's doing a good job in saving as well as keeping in DRS range. He's in a good position where he can just sit in the DRS. He doesn't even need to use it, just can sit behind Povey and then go on attack mode at some point in the race when he feels like he's ready for it.
Yeah, and
we should also shout out Petmeister. This is his first race in over a season. I think he left like a few races into last season, so to come back in after a long gap and being Povey's around.
Oh no!
He's spun. He's spun. He's going to lose position to LC as well.
But I wasn't even riding on board. I was riding on board with Petmeister and Brinshill there. I don't even know if there's any kind of contact or if he just lost it.
It looks like his front wing's damaged. It kind of, the way he was, it didn't look like he was in a position to lose any front wing. But the Squiff's curse has hit the second of our Squiff tribute helmets. We said about it in qualifying with Stanya, and now Povey has dropped it. We think. I don't think they were quite close enough for it to be contact. Yeah. So he's now 4.5 seconds back on LC and 8 seconds off the lead. Well, over 8 seconds.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see what happened there. That's very uncharacteristic of Povey. He's just been so consistent throughout this entire season, but maybe the pressure finally got to him, or I guess he just wasn't a perfect driver after all, like we've been saying before. So it's an uncharacteristic mistake of Povey, and that's very weird. Gonna have to see what happened come post-race. And interestingly enough, too, this means that Nemesis's penalty that he picked up in the very first lap,
it's relevant.
It's basically null now at this point, as Povey doesn't pit. So if he does have some kind of wing damage, it isn't enough for him to be too worried about it. but man, he is a long ways back from LC, who's been putting in consistent laps in his own little world there. So yeah, Povey's not going to be within the assistance of being able to get any kind of DRS assistance from LC ahead.
He's a long way back.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Povey, do you look to think to possibly switch it up? It looks like Povey has finally said something. Oh, no, I was reading something else. Yeah, okay, so I was just under SC messages that he sent. I thought there was some kind of insight as to what happened with Povey there. But yeah.
Wheeling it with one hand, raging with the other. But yeah, it's an interesting one, because if you pit now, you're going to come out completely off the train, aren't you?
Yeah, all past P10, I'd imagine.
And you've got the two in front, obviously guaranteed now to be, well, we don't know guaranteed, but it's most likely a one-stop. So it really depends on other people's strategies. Do you, at this point, try and save the tyres and try and make it to the end? We don't know if people are comfortable with making it to the end as well. We'll see that around, I'd imagine, laps 20 to 22 range, if people are going to go onto the softs, like we suspect. Around that range. Maybe a little bit well, it can't go much earlier, but this is from lap 18. But it'd be interesting one to see what he decides to do, because now he's obviously got an Aston Martin 1-2 in front of him, and Nemesis can use LC Fire to his advantage. Povey can even get to him.
Yeah, that's a huge blow to Povey in these standings. As I go ahead and pull them up, yeah, Povey's gap is only 7 points, so Nemesis will definitely be able to overtake Povey. And also, too, the gap between Williams and Aston Martin is 47 points, so this is going to be a huge benefit to the Aston drivers and Nemesis himself as well in the championship standings, as Spin overtakes Quimulus. And I gotta say, he's on 12 lap old tires, 12 lap old medium tires, so he's still making those medium tires work. Yeah, he's making.
And also Gali is kind of like hanging on to the pack. He's 2 seconds, but it's not too bad with the tyre differential. So it's around the time where we might start to see the hards performing a little bit better than the mediums. And obviously we know what their strategy is. We don't even need to talk about them. They're going to the end. And I'm not sure if standing in front made a mistake, but the gap is coming down quite rapidly to him in front.
Yeah, that's actually kind of scary if you're one of those lead drivers. I mean, I believe Nemesis and LC are probably outside.
The front two, yeah,
are of
they
threat
should
of
be okay.
One stop, the true one stoppers, the hard runners. But yeah, if you're Povey or Petmeister or anybody else, you know that Gali and Gloverino are not going to pit, so you're going to lose that position to those guys. And it's a 20-second loss in the pit lane. So yeah, that's huge. This could be huge for those guys to choose those hard tires under safety car, and that we might see another Gloverino miracle on those hard tires with Gali alongside him.
Yeah, the key thing if you're worried about them is the fact that you need to give yourself as many laps as you can to fight and push on the softs. You don't want to give yourself too little time to the point where they're out of touch. But you also got to be careful that you don't give yourself too many laps, so your tyres by the end are squealing for help. We've seen spins plenty already, including our championship leader. So it just shows that it's quite easy to make a mistake around here with the curves and the high-speed corners.
Yeah, this is yeah, it's a delicate balancing act, and this is definitely the time when you have to be thinking about, this is the point where you got to commit to either a one-stop or a two-stop and start driving essentially that way. So Povey is starting to make some inroads on LC, finally gets that gap under 4 seconds. So might we be seeing Povey opting for the two-stop strategy if he is starting to push those mediums and wear them down a bit? I don't know. Like you said, we're starting that, essentially the two-stop window is starting to open up now. Yeah, the softs could definitely go to the end of the race, but yeah, you'll probably be hitting a cliff in the final 2 laps when you really don't want to. So the pit lane is open, and we're going to be seeing exactly what happens as Quimulus is now in a McLaren sandwich, as he's starting to try and fight back from Spin, but Spin is just continuing to make these mediums last. for quite some time, and we might see him go to the end of the race on these mediums. And I think they have like a 2-lap-old disadvantage to everybody else around him. As we can see, 14 laps now to everybody else's 12 laps who pitted under safety car, as Issei gets ahead of Queasy Pluto now. Glad to see them still fighting, even though they aren't fighting for points. Excited to see them battling for position on the track, as Queasy is possibly going to look to make a move, as he's just going to keep it tucked behind the Alpha Tauri of Issei ahead of him there, as Queasy now picks up a time penalty.
We're not seeing a lot of penalties at all, are we? We're not going to count the Nemesis one. That was a little bit suspicious. But apart from that, we can only see 2 drivers who actually picked up any penalties so far. And as I said that out loud, I'm not too sure why I said it, because we're no doubt about to see many more penalties come.
Thankfully, you didn't call anybody out, so I think we're safe from getting commentators cursed on anybody. It's just kind of at random now. It's up to the game to decide who gets it. It's not us.
So we're talking about 2 stops, aren't we? But we should note that we might be talking complete rubbish, since we're really bad at tyre wear, and everyone's going into the end. The mediums won't like it, obviously, towards the back end of the stint, and it could make them more prone to mistakes and errors and spins, as we've already seen. But yeah, we should probably also note that there's no guarantee that anybody pits.
Yeah, I think Gali and Gloverino on those hards being within everybody's pit windows is just kind of enough to force these guys to stay out and just tough it out to the end. But like you said, these mediums are not going to be happy, and with those spins we might possibly see a last lap, or I guess it has to come out on lap 26 or come in on lap 26 for the final 2 laps under green flag racing. But who knows? Yeah, if these mediums die too much, we might see a couple of last lap shootouts if people box for the soft. So it's definitely not over until it's over, with 8 laps to go now, as Nemesis is coming up to the final 2 turns to start lap 22.
I'm praying someone pits, unless we've been talking right rubbish, and every passing lap someone just carries on. It just worries me a little bit more that we're just hyping up 2 stops for everyone to 1-stop it.
Interestingly, Nemesis is a 1.5 seconds off of his best lap time, so I think it's safe to say, and we saw the ERS lights flashing, so he's been pushing it, but these mediums are dying now. Essentially, they're out of pace.
We've got one.
we know what we're talking about. We are geniuses here. As he yes, the softs selected.
Fresh softs by the looks of it. Obviously, he has fresh softs since he crashed out of qualifying by the time he got past his outlap. So that's another thing we should note, really, that if people did 3 runs in qualifying, they're not going to have fresh softs.
Yeah, and the Aston boys, we saw them doing double push laps
for
qualifying. So those tires are going to be even worse. They're going to be at a bigger disadvantage than everybody else around them. So that might be another factor that we've forgotten about. But obviously, we're geniuses, and we call it the 2-stop strategy for these medium runners. But yeah, how are you going to respond, mainly for those around Stanier? So looking at Spin and Quimulus, as we know Gali and Gloverino aren't going to be coming into the pits at all anytime soon. So how would you react if you're Spin or Quimulus?
I mean, they might know what they're doing already. We don't know what's going on inside their heads, but it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, so I'm starting to doubt the top drivers at least going for the 2-stop here. We're getting into the range where it's like, is there much point anymore? Be interesting to see like the more midfield ones decide to cover up, because Stanier is going to be flying on the softs.
Yeah, it looks like his teammate comes into the pits.
Yes, they are pitting.
Wow, this is going to be interesting.
Well, we kind of suspected Ben was going to box at some point anyway, since he obviously had 2-lap order. I saw someone on the hards, but it is Gloverino coming through. It worried me for a second that one of them appeared onto the hards with like 5-6 laps to go.
So it looked like Stanier didn't really have a good outlap, because he went for the undercut. It didn't work. He's still behind Brinshall and Spinwolf. So
he's got a good run. He's obviously got the tyres in shape and ready to go. So he's nearly. It's a mess. It's a mess. And he's a time penalty. I don't know.
Oh no. Oh no. But yeah,
that's what the new regulations are for, to prevent things like that happen. His teammates dirty air completely ruined him. He's somehow up in the sector, so that's something at least. But Povy's not really gaining much on LC anymore. It's kind of just stayed around the 3.8 to 4 second gap the whole time. As at this point, I'm going to say 100% that they don't think the top three are pitting.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel like it, does it?
It's a bit late, and curiously, their times are like a second off their best lap. So the mediums definitely have the life taken out of them. As Pepmeister now comes into the pit, so everybody but the top three have pitted. So that's going to be interesting, and Quimulus stays out as well. So. And
it's a good time to be on the hards.
Yeah, of course, Gali and Gloverino now are going to be making up positions big time, starting outside the top 10 now, and electing for the hards under that safety car period, putting them into P5 and P6 respectively there. So great call from them as Stanier now puts in the fastest lap.
That moment in Sector 1, that disaster is it's the fastest lap of the race. I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I reckon by the end of the race, that won't be the fastest lap. It's just something tells me that. But yeah, as Brenshaw has jumped Petmeister in the pits.
Yeah,
and they're all quite close together now. They've got a little train going on the soft runners, which is kind of, well, it's hindering the ones in the mid pack because they're obviously in the dirty air. But it's good for Brenshaw, who's now the lead soft runner, and is going to be. We'll have to check what the gap is. We've got about just over 8 seconds at the moment. That's the target. It was quite a big target as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 2 seconds a lap, but he's on it. He's definitely on it as he's pushing, or a little bit less than 2 seconds a lap. But he's making it work. He's getting his money's worth out of these tires as we see somebody. Issei spun round. He's struggling with his rear tires.
Spin King is showing us that he's still got it in him. Yeah, this is a good little train going on. I mean, they have gained a second on Gloverino in about about a second and a half.
Looking further ahead, the mediums continue to show their wear, as Gali now is within DRS range of Quimulus and is just making huge runs and huge gains to Quimulus ahead. So Gali might be on for a P4. He might win best of the rest here.
A better tyre. Yeah, this is the point in the race. We obviously knew there was going to be a crossover point at some point where the hards were just straight up better than the mediums. And since he's pulled out a 5.2 second gap to Gloverino, he might not even need to worry about the cars behind on the softs charging towards him. So this could be a perfect chance to get a P4 and finish best of the rest.
Yeah, and that would also just be such a huge recovery drive as well from him. It was, he had a little bit of a struggle and got caught up in some earlier on. He got tangled in some other incidents on track. So this would be a huge recovery drive from him to finish P4. That's really hoping that he does well. And I mean, you can't rule out Quimulus as well, who's done a great job managing these tires to be ahead right now, currently in P4, as Issei's retired in the pits, and so we won't be seeing a safety car triggered because of that. But again, we might see a little bit of concern as the lead car is starting to catch up to him, and it looks like he's pulled off, thankfully, so we won't get another scare like we saw with Cryptic retiring earlier.
The Gali really overshot the corner to the point where he's slammed on the brakes. The difference in stopping there was substantial. And the tyre difference is incredible. He's going to, after messing that corner completely, he's going to look to go down the inside here and go into P4.
Yeah, and he gets that move done, and Quimulus is able to get close to him, but oh man, those mediums are just absolutely out of it, as both these guys are under 10% ERS. Oh my, they're still going at it. They're going.
Gali kind of knows he's got the best tyres. Don't wreck yourself. Don't wreck yourself, guys.
Goodness. Quimulus is still keeping his nose in there and keeping the fight with Gali in the Alpine there. Yeah, but I don't want to say he's out of it, but man, he's still there. And he'll be getting DRS, I'd imagine, as they're coming up to the detection zone now. So yeah, he'll have DRS on this infield straight there. So, man, you can see the wear on those medium tires, at least the fronts. Yeah, they're just taking an absolute beating, and Quimulus is going to have to be a bit careful through here. Even with lifting, man, he's going to be having a very tough bouncing act with those tires in that dirty air of Gali behind. as he had a big lift there. But
And
yeah.
we're seeing it with the cars in front, because look at the gap Povey's now got to LC. That's gone up quite substantially. He's just nursing them around at this point. So the three, we don't, obviously the Nemesis gap's kind of just stayed at 5 seconds, but Povey at least it looks like he's really struggling on the medium, so he's going to have to just nurse them home, try not to spin again. With the gap behind, I wonder if it made sense. It probably would have made sense to pit, because obviously 17 seconds, you probably have enough. You're going to be behind, obviously, but with the tyre differential, he would have had enough to overtake and then most likely get the fast snap point as well. Because we know we can heavily presume at this point, barring any mistakes, that third is the limit here. And yeah, he's just really struggling on them, as you can imagine, on nearly 20 lap old mediums.
Yeah, it's amazing that those guys are able to make them go that far from lap 6 or whenever it was we saw the safety car come out. But interestingly, elsewhere in the field, we were talking about Brinshill. It looks like he might have gotten overtaken by some of the DRS runners, but the soft runners have finally caught up to the hard runners ahead. So it was the right strategy call, and they're back to where they were essentially at when they came off those medium tires before. So Spin, who took those medium tires the longest out of those soft runners, is now looking to get into P6 and bring home some nice points for the Woking team.
And Glyverin is a bit of a moving chicane here, isn't he? The difference in tyres. It's an unorthodox place, and it's going to give everyone else behind them run as well. But yeah, at that point, there's not much you can really do as they just try and take it home. It looks like he's probably going to come home with a point. So it didn't work out too badly, but obviously Garley getting past and up the road they've had very different stints here.
Yeah, they definitely have, but he's able to stay out ahead of Brinshill with the help of that DRS. So Brinshill is able to brake later, is able to get a lot more traction out of these corners. There's a little bit of tap, yeah, a little bit of touch, but thankfully
love tap.
No cars were
here I am.
Settled.
He might just send it here, Brinshill, because the problem he's got now is he's stuck behind him for the start of this sector, so he's going to he's got to make sure he doesn't make any contact, really, because he's obviously a bit of a, like I said earlier, moving chicane, and obviously Brenshaw's going to have a massive pace difference to him, plus Stanya is coming up behind.
Yeah, Stanya getting very antsy back there.
Yeah, it's kind of gone all a bit wrong here for Brentshaw. At one point was P4, and is now looking at probably a P8 finish. He's going that way around. That's interesting.
My goodness, yeah, he was almost off track there and into the desert, but he's finally able to get that move done, and it looks like Stanier as well, as they go side by side through the death curb. Both of them able to make it out alive with no spinning at all, so nice job, clean racing.
You said that, but
no! Oh,
why would you say that?
I'm so sorry, Gloverino. I am so sorry.
And it's now the fake Queasy Pluto has come out of nowhere and he's looking for a point here.
Oh no, I'm so sorry, Gloverino. Oh, I feel so bad, and yeah, that's such bad understeer. I'd imagine that he'd want to go to the pits, or he might stick it out with Death Star being so far back. Yeah. Wow.
So just a random thing to notice on the last lap, but just the difference between tyres here. As we got a yellow flag, it is Spenwolf.
Spin the wrong way around. Man, these soft runners, they got past Gloverino, but starting to struggle a little bit.
So Garley is actually faster than Povey at the moment. So that should probably tell you what you need to know about how much they're struggling on the tyres. Povey, and it doesn't really, Nemesis doesn't really seem bothered, to be honest. He's got an 8-second gap. It's all good in the world, really. As he comes through the final corner.
As Death Star retires into the pits now, wow, Pepmeister is caught up to Quimulus, but Quimulus has done a great job as Nemesis wins. Unsurprisingly, it'll be an all-berry podium, but Quimulus has done a very good job hanging on to the back of Golly to be able to keep that DRS and avoid being under threat at any point in time from those soft runners. So Quimulus keeping the same strategy as the podium sitters, and able to make it work for a nice points finish here, taking home 10 points for Brackley, the Mercedes team there. So yeah, nice job by him. as they finally cross the line, and an Albury podium, but it's an Aston Martin 1-2, which had been a long
Is that
time.
the first one? Well, like, it might be, because at the start of the season,
I don't know if they have
maybe Japan.
Australia?
I felt like at the start of the season it was because it was the start of the season was like Nemesis getting time penalties, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and Povey winning on time penalties.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure because obviously in Japan we saw Povey spinning. But then LC did it like a few corners later, didn't they? So yeah, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but this might be the first Aston Martin 1-2 of the season.
I think you're actually. I have the standings pulled up here. I could go ahead and take a look. And yeah, this is actually LC's second place finish. So yeah, he's only finished P3
Mixing up.
and won in Canada. So yeah, and looking at the chat too, in Discord at least, it looks like there wasn't any kind of contact or anything like that. It looks like it was just a mistake from Povey when he lost his lead there. So thankfully I think we'll be able to avoid any kind of drama post race. But yeah, and the first Aston Martin 1-2 of the season, LC's first second place of the season as well. And of course that inevitably leads us to the next question of who is your driver. I honestly missed it, but who is your driver of the day?
Well, I'd like to just shout out Nemesis for saying what 3-second time penalty. That completely went. But I'm going to go like last season for the driver that put on the hards and made it to the end. He's coming from 11th into P4. That is Gali. He's not winning a nice little tribute for Ukraine for his flag as well, which is nice to see. But yeah, I'll go for Gali for driver of the day.
Yeah, and I think this might be a little bit of bias coming from me, but seeing Stanier actually like DNFing on his outlap in qualifying and to come home in P8 is a pretty big job. And yeah, I think he gets my driver of the day. But yeah, I wanted to give it to Gali as well, but you beat me to it. Well, I guess I kind of let you. But anyways, yeah.
Don't blame me. Blame me.
I should have said it first and then asked you, but. Yeah, that was an excellent race, and I'm glad we got to see some midfield battles happening instead of paying attention to the guys up front. So, yeah, and I hope that they are able to enjoy that and watch it back. And yeah, Bahrain just always delivers. It seems like it's a bit less cursed now. I think we've appeased.
Yeah, we've kind of got over that.
Yeah, I think
we've kind of got over that. The Swift Devil is no longer looking down on us.
Yeah, I think we've appeased him enough now. So, yeah, I think it's less cursed now. Aston Martin 1-2, which I guess now that I think about it, Squish was in what became Aston Martin. So yeah, he was in the Racing Point. So yeah, maybe he's starting to like us.
Maybe he's looking down on us. Yeah,
he's starting to like us now. So yeah. Anyways, is there anything else you want to say, Kim, before we sign off?
Do you know what? No. I was going to say something, but I won't jinx anything. I'll just let it happen.
All right, that sounds good. We didn't get any Kim facts today, but
I didn't have any prepared.
it's
too busy practicing.
Squiffs.
Yeah, just
happens. I guess. Here we go. Well, yeah. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Thank you, Kim, for joining on CoComs as always.
As always.
Thank you, and we'll see you guys in 2 weekends. 3 weekends time. Jeez, 3 weekends time.
Cheers, F1
at Paul Ricard. So, thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you then.